Uh, Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Neha Hamilton, and today we are going to start with yet another topic of research methods in management. Uh, we have covered a lot of topics till now in research methods of management. We have covered the basics of research, the meaning and concept of research. Then we have studied the process of research. Then we have studied sampling, right? And we have studied various other methods through which we can do a particular research. We have studied data processing, data editing also. We have studied various instruments through which you can collect data. So from today's class onwards, we are going to understand measures of dispersion, which is a part of data analysis, right? I have told you that the data can be analyzed into two steps. The first step is called as descriptive statistics, and the second part is called as inferential statistics, right? So these are the two things that we define basically in data analysis. The first is called as descriptive statistics, and the second is called as inferential statistics. So in the descriptive statistics that we were talking about, uh, we have seen that how do you calculate mean, mode, median, right? These all things we have already covered, that how do you calculate mean, mode, and median. See, there are two concepts in descriptive statistics also. Try to listen carefully whatever I'm saying. I'm saying that we do data analysis in two parts, right? What is the first part? It is called as descriptive statistics. What is the second part? It is called as inferential statistics. So we have two parts. We have divided this data analysis into two basic parts, right? The first is called as descriptive statistics, and the second one is called as inferential statistics. So right now we are on the first part. We are studying descriptive statistics, in which you describe the characteristics of your data. You are just explaining your data, you are just telling people about the kind of data you have, right? You are talking about sampling characteristics. Okay, that means what is the mean of the data, what is the central point of the data, how much your data is dispersed. All these things you are studying in descriptive statistics, right? Whatever data you have taken from the sample, you are just explaining the characteristics of that data, right? So that comes in descriptive statistics. Now when I talk about inferential statistics, I am talking about results. I am no more explaining the characteristics of my sample. I am no more explaining that, this is the middle value and this is the highest value and this is the lowest value. I am giving results. I am inferring results. How I am giving results? By applying some kind of statistical techniques or some kind of tests or method through which I can come on a particular result, right? So that is called as inferential statistics, which is second part of data analysis. But right now we are on the first part of data analysis, which is called as descriptive statistics. Now, descriptive statistics again has two parts. First is called as measure of central tendency, and the second is called as measure of dispersion. What I am saying, that descriptive statistics has two parts. The first is called as measure of central tendency, and the second is called as measure of dispersion. In measure of central tendency, we have studied that you what are the ways through which you can find out the middle point or the median point of your data, of your sample, right? You can either calculate mean or mode or median. These are the three ways, very simple ways through which you can find out the middle point of the data. Okay, there is no need to use calculators every time. These functions are available on Excel also, and the SPSS software also that we were talking about. Now we are on the second part of the descriptive statistics, which is called as measure of dispersion. Now, what is this measure of dispersion all about? See, whenever you whenever you plot a graph, maybe a histogram or a box plot on the x-axis and y-axis for a sample, right? How much your data is dispersed from the median or the middle point, right? If your graph is like this, that means your data is largely dispersed. If your graph is like this, then that means your data is narrowly dispersed, right? So we are going to understand that what are the statistical techniques through which we find out the dispersion in the data. That means how much your data is dispersed from the mean or the median point, right? Mean is always in the middle of the data. So mean is in the middle of the data. Now we are going to understand that how much data is spread from the mean, right? How sparsely, farly, or narrowly the data is dispersed. So today's lecture objective is we have to talk about measure of dispersion, then definition of dispersion. We are going to talk about range, quartile deviation, mean deviation, and standard deviation. These are very famous statistical terms whenever you go for data analysis, right? You calculate dispersion, and in dispersion, how do you calculate dispersion? These are the ways through which you calculate dispersion. And one thing you always have to remember that you always have to use standard deviation whenever you are talking about dispersion, because the other methods that we are definitely going to learn, they are not very popular among the researchers because they have certain disadvantages. What are the disadvantages that we are going to learn? But till now you have to understand that what are we studying right now? We are studying measure of dispersion, which is the part of descriptive statistics, which is a part of data analysis, right? This you have to clear in your mind. If you want, you can write it down in your copies that we are studying measure of dispersion, which is a part of descriptive statistics, which is a part of data analysis. Okay. Now let's go to the next slide. Measure of tendency gives us the bird's eye view of the entire data. They are called as averages of first order. It is served to locate the center of distribution but do not reveal how the atoms are spread out on the either side of the central value. The measure of scattering of items in a distribution about the average is called as dispersion. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what is written in this slide is that when you are calculating measure of central tendency, you only calculate mean, mode, and median, right? They gives you an idea of what is the central point in your data. They do not give any idea about how much the data is dispersed, right? For example, in the last class, I've given you some figures and I told you to find out the mean, mode, and median of that data. Very easy to calculate. Whenever you calculate mean, you just sum up all and divide by the total number of observations. That's the mean, right? Mode is the central value, median is the central value of a particular uh, distribution. Mode is, sorry, the value which has highest frequency, that is mode. So this is how you calculate the central tendency. But central tendency doesn't give you a complete idea of the whole of your distribution. If you combine central tendency and measure of dispersion, then you will get a complete idea of how your data is spread and total characteristics of your sample, right? So that's why when I talk about mean, mode, and median, when I talk about measure of central tendency, I am talking about first order averages that gives you an initial introduction about your data's middle point. Okay. Now it serves to locate the central of distribution, but do not reveal how the items are spread on the either side of the central value. So here you do not get an idea of how the values are being dispersed around the central value, right? Here you are only explaining about the central point or the middle point of the data, right? The measure of scattering of the items in the distribution about the average is called as dispersion. So how much the data is scattered around the middle point, right? That gives you an idea of what the dispersion is all about. The measure of dispersion is also called as average of second order, right? So measure of dispersion can be also called as average of second order. See, what is first order? That gives you an initial idea. What is second order? Averages of second order, that gives you a detailed idea about your sample, right? So when I'm talking about measure of central tendency, I am talking about averages of first order. When I'm talking about measure of dispersion, I am talking about averages of second order. right? Because here I'm explaining all the characteristics of the population, including the central point, the percentage by which it is scattered around the mean. Everything we are going to explain, right? Okay. Based on the deviation of different values from the mean or other measure of central tendency, which are called as averages of first order. Okay. Next. So far, we have looked at ways of summarizing data by showing some sort of averages. Whenever I'm talking about averages, I'm talking about central tendency. Okay. But it is often useful to show how much these figures differ from the averages. The measure is called as dispersion. See, if I take the average of the average height of your class, so what will I do? I will just combine the heights of all the individuals in centimeters, and I will divide it by the total number of individuals, which is 18. That's how I get the mean. But what idea of your height I get if I get mean? I do not have the highest point in your height in your class. I do not have the lowest point of height in your class. I do not know that how many individuals are there in your class only by finding out the measure of central tendency, right? So it is important to find out measure of dispersion also. It is important to find out different parameters that explain you further about the population. So let's come to the formal definition of dispersion. It is important that you write it down in your copies so that you remember and you do not get confused between measure of dispersion and measure of central tendency. Dispersion is the measure of variation in the items or variation of the items. Dispersion is a measure of extent to which individual items vary. See, whenever you are calculating dispersion or whenever you are calculating deviation, how you are calculating it? You are calculating it by comparing it with a certain standard. Am I clear? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Whenever you are comparing the two sets of data, you will compare with a standard, right? Now, what is the standard here? The standard here is the average or the mean value, right? For example, you see in the weather forecast that uh, the temperature is 5 degrees above the normal temperature. So, what normal temperature they are talking about? They have taken means of the temperature at this particular time of June of the past 10 years, right? They have taken average or mean of the temperature of June of last 10 years. And because the data is deviating 5 degree above the mean, is going up 5 degree above the mean. So they are saying that the temperature is 5 degree above the normal temperature. So this normal temperature that I'm talking about is the standard that I have fixed. Okay, this is the standard that I have fixed. Now, if I draw a graph, I will I will draw the mean value in between the graph and I will plot all the values around the graph. For example, the mean temperature is 45 degrees Celsius. So if in the coming years in June, if the temperature is less than 45 years, I will plot the data on the left side. If it is greater than 45 degrees Celsius, I will plot the data on the right side. And I will study the 20 years of graph of the temperature of May. Then I'll get to know that how much the temperature has been varied from the mean, right? This idea I can easily get whenever I am uh, drawing the complete graph. Okay, so this is what dispersion is all about. It is measure of variation of items, right? How much the items are varying from what? From the standard that you have fixed. What is the standard that you have fixed? Measure of central tendency. Mostly it is mean. Okay, so how much your data is differing from the mean, dispersing or deviating from the mean, that you are studying in dispersion. Okay, now how do we calculate dispersion? Okay, before calculation, let comes to the purpose of measuring dispersion. That means why do we measure dispersion at the first point? What is the reason and aim of measuring dispersion? Right? A measure of dispersion appears to serve two purposes. Now, what are these two purposes that we are talking about? First, it is one of the most important quantities used to characterize a frequency distribution. Secondly, it affords a basis of comparison between two or more frequency distribution, right? Uh, how do you compare two or more frequency distribution? For example, uh, try to understand. I'm giving you an example so that you can understand how we can compare frequencies of two data. For example, the first data that I've taken is the average height of MBA second semester student. That is my first set of data. The second set of data I have taken is the average height of BBA second semester students, right? So because they are younger to you, their height will be less as compared to you. This is a basic thing that we know in our mind. But if I want to compare that, how much the sample is being dispersed in in the first group as compared to the second group. When I'm talking about dispersed means, for example, the mean height in your class is 5'7". Okay, 5'6" or 5'7" is the mean height. Now, if this is the mean height, how much data, different kind of data which is deviating from 5.7 is getting in, I am getting in your class, and how much, for example, in their class the mean height is 5'2", right? So how much deviation I'm getting from 5'2" in BBA class, and how much deviation I'm getting in the MBA class of 5'7", right? This is how I am going to calculate the measure of dispersion. If the graph of BBA goes like this and the graph of MBA goes like this means middle we have the mean. So that means the data is nicely dispersed, narrowly dispersed. That means the your height of MBA second semester students are very much similar to 5.7. They are very approximately equal to 5.7. That's why I'm getting a narrow graph. For example, here in BBA group, if the average height is 5.2, right? And say, for example, somebody has a height of 4 only, right? So 5.2 and 4 has a difference. So graph will be like this. It will be like a broad graph or a spread out graph. So deviation is higher in this graph of BBA as compared to the graph of MBA. So MBA graph has less dispersion and BBA graph has more dispersion. Farther you go from your central tendency, the more dispersed your graph will be. Closer you stick to the mean or the median value, the narrower graph you will be having. Okay, so if you want to find out the frequency of the distribution, you want to find out the uh, dispersion, or if you want to compare, right? As I've given you a example, I have compared the heights of two uh, the average heights of two classes, right? So my inference is this: I have calculated the dispersion, and I have find out that the MBA class has less dispersion as compared to the BBA class, because MBA classes height curve is very narrowly distributed, because maximum students height is similar to 5.7, which is the mean value. And when I talk about the average height or the graph of BBA students, it is a widely spread graph because their average height is not revolving around the mean. A lot of people have a different height of two extents. For example, somebody has 6 feet of height, or somebody has 4 feet of height in BBA class. So the dispersion is very high. The graph is spread out. Okay. So these are the two purposes of, on how or why do we measure the dispersion. Measure of dispersion are descriptive statistics that describe how similar the set of scores are to each other. So this I've explained you in the beginning of the class, that measure of a dispersion is a part of descriptive statistics that doesn't give you any inferences, answer, or it doesn't prove or disapprove your hypothesis, but it only gives you an idea of, you know, what your data looks like, what is the middle value, how your graph has been spread. So all these basic questions are answered by this particular measure of dispersion. Okay, the more similar the scores are to each other, the lower the measure of dispersion will be. As I have explained you just now, if there is similarity in the scores, right? Similarity means they all are very close to the central value, which is mean, right? Then the dispersion will be less. Okay. If the scores, the less similar the scores are, the higher measure of the dispersion will be. If the scores are not similar to each other, if there is a lot of dispersion in the scores, lot of difference in the score, the dispersion is going to be high. In general, the more spread out distribution is, the larger the measure of dispersion will be, right? So whatever, how much spread your graph has will decide how much dispersion your graph is having, right? If your graph is like this is y-axis, this is x-axis, this is the mean value, right? If your graph is like this, it has less dispersion. If your graph is like this, it has more dispersion, greater dispersion, and greatest dispersion, because it is a widespread graph. So here is the mean value, and this value is very much far away from the mean. So this is the graph with the highest value of dispersion, and this is the graph having the lowest value of dispersion, because this is the farthest value, which is very much closer to the central value or the mean value, right? Is this point clear? If you have any confusion till now, you can ask me. Okay. So next we are going to understand measures of dispersion, right? Now once we have understood the concept of dispersion, we have understood that what uh, what descriptive statistics is all about. Now we have come to the specific statistical techniques through which we are going to calculate the dispersion in a particular population, right? How do we find out the percentage of dispersion? How do we find out that how much dispersed that particular graph is? So we have these statistical techniques through which we can calculate the measure of dispersion. Okay. So the first that we are going to cover is called as range. Okay. So you can write it down in your copies. Write down the heading measure of dispersion, right? And in measure of dispersion, you have to write down the first parameter, which is called as range. Okay, written, fine. So first you have to understand what range is, right? Then we can easily understand the formula of the range. The range is defined as difference between the largest score in a set of data and the smallest score in the set of data, right? Largest data and smallest data. So range is a single statistical technique that gives you how widespread your data is, right? It doesn't give you a complete understanding of measure of dispersion, but it just gives you a basic idea of how much your data has been spread. It has certain disadvantages also, because it gives a very limited view of the dispersion, right? For example, XL and XS, right? XL matlab largest value, XS matlab smallest value, right? So very simple formula. You have to divide the smallest value. Sorry, not divide. You have to subtract the smallest value from the largest value, right? Because it is XL minus XS, so your answer is definitely going to be in positive. Your answer is never going to be negative. If your answer is coming in negative, means you are doing something wrong. So range, what is the formula of range? You have to find out the largest value in the set of observation. You have to find out the smallest value in the set of observation, and you have to subtract these two values, right? What are you doing? You are subtracting these two values so that you get the answer of range. As the name suggests, range means the range of distribution of your data on a particular graph, right? From which end to which end the data has been spread. For example, the largest point, what is the largest point in this set of data? Tell me, what is the largest number?
9.
9,
9 में
right? So 9 is the largest number, or smallest कौन सा है?
1 ma'am.
1
right? So how will we calculate range? XL minus XS, matlab 9 minus 1 is 8.
Yes.
So you can say that in a particular graph, the range is 8, means from 1 to 9, your data is spread in a particular graph, right? So this is how you calculate range. That gives you an idea of how much dispersed on what particular points the graph has been dispersed. The range is used when you have ordinal data or you are presenting your results to people with little or no knowledge of statistics. The range is rarely used in scientific work as it is fairly insensitive, right? So, see, a word has been used, ordinal data. So, what is ordinal data? Ordinal data means a data that gives you order or rank, right? For example, if I say that first student got 95%, second student got 85%, third student got 70%, right? So first student has marks greater than second student has marks greater than third student. So this is called as rank, right? This is a ordinal data, rank. Age is a ordinal data, right? For example, a student who is 22 years old is elder to a student who is 20 years old. So here we have order. 22 in the terms of age is greater than 20. So this is called as ordinal data, right? The data which gives you order, right, in a hierarchical, sequential, increasing or decreasing order, उसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? Ordinal data, right? The classic example is rank, that is ordinal data. So whenever we have ordinal data, for example, height, age, right, temperature, right? So for example, minus 2 degrees Celsius is less as compared to 2 degrees Celsius, right? So this is also ordinal data, right? So this is ordinal data gives you ranks or clearly defines you that this number is greater than this number, right? We have nominal data also. See, nominal data क्या होता है? Nominal means for namesake. Namesake means in the previous classes we have coded in an Excel sheet that male is equal to 1 and female is equal to 2, so that we make the calculation process easier. That doesn't mean that 2 is greater than 1 or 1 is smaller than 2, right? These are just codes that we are used to simplify the data analysis process. So that kind of data is called as nominal data, right? What is nominal data? Namesake data. We are just coding that particular number, right? For example, I have given you example of male and female. For example, I'm giving you example of salaries, right? 1, 2, 3 salary I have quoted. So I cannot say that in that particular point that third category has a salary greater than second or first, right? I can either ways do coding on 1, 2, 3 in the increasing order or 3 to 1. It depends on me as a researcher because I am coding it, right? So when it depends on me as a researcher, it becomes nominal data. When it actually you can increase or decrease the data, when actually you can order the data, it becomes ordinal data, right? So range is mostly used when ordinal data is being used. Okay. The next point that you have to understand is that range is rarely used in scientific work as it is insensitive. How is it insensitive? Let me explain you. So we have two sets of data, right? Two sets of data means first set of data is this, second set of data is this. So you have to calculate range in set number 1 and set number 2. Calculate the range and give me the answers. What is the range in set number 1 and what is the range in set number 2?
In both the range are 2. 8, 8.
8. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else?
8 आएगा मैं
8 are. Very good. You both are correct. The range is going to be 8. But do you think that the both set of data are similar to each other?
No,
No,
no.
they are not similar, but their range is very same. Their range is 8, but this data have different characteristics. If you see the first set of data here, it has 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 9. There is no variability in the data. One has a much greater frequency as compared to other numbers. So here the range is XL minus XL, XS, that is 9 minus 1, which is 8. If you will see here, there is a lot of variability in the data, right? You have smallest number also, then you have medium number also, then you have largest number also, and then also the range is going to be 8. If you will plot these figures on the graph, the two graphs will be very different from each other, right? The first graph will go like this, and the second graph will go like this, right? But both the range of both the figures or both the data is similar. So that means range as a statistical technique has a disadvantage that it do not explain the correct characteristic of the data. It only gives you the range of the data, the maximum and the minimum point of the data. So this is the biggest disadvantage of the range. Okay, now we are going to understand the next statistical technique which is used to cover the measure of dispersion, which is called as interquartile range. Interquartile range is the range of the middle half of the values. It is, see, in range we were considering the two extremes. Okay, in quartile we are covering the middle part also. So this technique is trying to cover the demerit of the range technique. Okay, it is a better measurement to use than range because it only refers to the middle half of the results. Basically, the extremes are omitted and cannot affect the answer. So here in interquartile range, I will show you the formula, right? So that will help you explain that how we are omitting or we are avoiding the extremes and we are considering the middle value. Let me show you the formula of interquartile range. Please note it down in your copies, right? What is the formula of range? First write down the formula of range, XL minus XS. Abhi write down the formula of interquartile range. It is Q3 minus Q1, right? Now we have to understand what is Q3 and what is Q1, right? Here if you can see the data, we have arranged the data into increasing order, right? These are the set of observations 10, 25, 45, 47. If you will see very carefully, then I have placed the data in the increasing order, right? Or in the increasing order, right? Then I have divided the data into two parts, two equal parts. If you will um, if you will count the observations, for example, in Q1 it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then in Q3 it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? So both the quartiles have equal number of data, which is 9 observations each. So what I have done in interquartile, first point is I have arranged the data into the increasing order. After increasing order, I have divided the data into two equal parts. The first is called as quartile 1. The second part is called as quartile 3. Okay, because there is an even number of values, we can split them into two equal groups of 9 each. Now how do we calculate interquartile? You have to find out, it is Q3 minus Q1. That means they have find out the median, right? The median value in the third quartile minus the median value in the first quartile, right? So if you will calculate the median or the middle value, you will find it to be, अगर आप Q3 में देखोगे तो क्या आएगा आपका 62 आएगा, which is the middle value. If you will keep your finger on 62, you will find four digits here, 4 digits here, right? So that how it is a median value. And here, if you will find out in quartile 1, if you will put your finger on 49, you will find four value here and four values there, right? So here, what we are doing is in interquartile range. So that is how we calculate, right? 62 minus 49 comes out to be 13. So 13 is the answer of interquartile range. So what do we do in interquartile range? In range, we were considering the extreme values. In interquartile, we are not taking the extreme values or we are not taking even the middle values. We are dividing the observation into two equal parts and we are taking the middle value of the first quartile, the middle value of the second quartile, then we are subtracting them. Q3 minus Q1. So answer is definitely going to be in positive, right? So that's how you calculate interquartile range, which is one step better than the range, right? एक स्टेप बेटर होता है रेंज से, क्योंकि रेंज में आप सिर्फ एक्सट्रीम वैल्यूज देखते हैं, और इंटरक्वार्टाइल रेंज में यू divide the observation into two parts, then you take the median of first part, median of second part, you subtract that, and then you get the interquartile range. Okay.
Ma'am, it is helped to observe the data.
It is helped to calculate measure of dispersion. Okay. Right? What is measure of dispersion? As we have already, I am going to explain you again that how do we go for data analysis? There are two parts of data analysis. The first part is called as descriptive statistics, and the second part is called as inferential statistics. So we are understanding descriptive statistics right now. In descriptive statistics, again, there are two parts. The first is called as measure of central tendency, and the second is called as measure of dispersion. What do we calculate in descriptive statistics? The characteristics of a particular data. How your data looks like, what are the characteristics of your data? That is called as descriptive statistics, right? It has two parts. The first is measure of central tendency. In central tendency, we find out the middle value of your graph, right? So we find out the mean, the mode, the median, right? They give you what is the central point of your data, right? That is called, that we have already covered in the last classes, right? So that is called as measure of central tendency. After that, we have measure of dispersion, which is part of descriptive statistics. So what is this measure of dispersion? That gives you how your data is spread around the mean, right? Whatever graph we make, how your data is spread around the mean. So how do we calculate measure of dispersion? Till now, we have only covered two techniques. The first is called as range, right? In which the formula is largest value minus smallest value. That's how we calculate the dispersion, that your how much dispersed your graph is, right? For example, in the first point, we have find out that 8 is the point. So 8 points, that data is spread around 8 points. Now we have understood about quartile deviation, right? So in quartile deviation, we have made an effort to negate the disadvantage of range. So here we are not taking the extreme values, but we are dividing the data into two parts, and then we are calculating the dispersion. Okay, Aditya, is it
Yes,
clear
ma'am.
now?
Yes.
Okay. Now the next point, after the quartile deviation, interquartile uh, range, we are going to talk about quartile deviation. Okay. The first thing that we have calculated is range. Then we have calculated interquartile range. Now we are going to calculate quartile deviation. This is the third statistical technique that we are going to learn to understand the measure of dispersion, right? Let me tell you that these are the techniques that we actually do not use. This is mentioned in your syllabus. That's why I'm explaining you. The only technique that you have to learn is standard deviation, right? Standard deviation we are going to learn in detail, and that is we actually use. That is a technique that we actually use when we do research and we want to find out the measure of dispersion. But these are the techniques, which are mentioned in the literature, so you should understand these techniques also, right? But in practicality, we do not use them because they have various disadvantages, and standard deviation is a foolproof technique that we are going to learn. Okay. So next is called as quartile deviation. It is a second measure of dispersion, no doubt improved version over the range. It is based on quartiles. So while calculating this, may require upper quartile, lower quartile, and then it is divided by 2. Hence, it is half of the difference between two quartiles, or it is also called as semi-interquartile range. So हमने यहाँ पे क्या किया है? कि आपका जो क्वार्टाइल का फॉर्मूला था उसको उठाकर हमने आधा कर दिया, 2 से डिवाइड कर दिया, उसको आधा कर दिया, तो उसको हम क्या बोलते हैं, सेमी इंटर क्वार्टाइल रेंज. So the process is same, right? How the process is same, you have to divide the data into the two parts, first quartile and second, first quartile, third quartile. First, you have to arrange the data into the increasing order. Then you have to divide the data into two equal quartiles. Then you have to find out the median value. Once you find out the median value of quartile 3, that will be greater to quartile 1's median value, you have to subtract them, and then you have to divide this value by 2. So you are going to find out quartile deviation, right? So this is a method, again a method which is used to calculate the measure of dispersion, right? So it is better if you write down the formula so that you don't get confused between range, interquartile range, and quartile deviation. The names are similar, so you may get confused. So please write it down in your copies, right? That is what I recommend. Just write down the heading quartile deviation, QD, and then write down Q3 minus Q1 divided by. Done? Okay. So next we are going to understand coefficient of quartile deviation, right? So what is coefficient of quartile deviation? The relative measure of dispersion corresponding to quartile deviation is known as coefficient of quartile deviation. Now you just have to remember the formula of coefficient of quartile deviation. It is uh, Q3 minus Q1 divided by Q3 plus Q1. Okay. This will always be less than 1 and will be positive, right? So the only thing that you have to remember is that it will be positive and the value will be always less than 1. Smaller the value of coefficient, QD indicates lesser variability. So smaller the value of coefficient of quartile deviation, then smaller the variability uh, in your set of observations. Okay. Then we have the next variable which is called as mean deviation. Next method of finding out the measure of dispersion which is called as mean deviation, right? So we have to write down mean deviation in our copies and we have to write down three values because mean is just for name. It is calculated for mean, mode and median also. So these are the formulas that you will write it down in your copies. The formula of mean deviation is given. The first is for mean, the second is for median and the third is for mode, right? So these are the formulas, summation D upon N, N is the total number of observation, summation M by N, that is total number of observation, and summation uh, Z upon N, where D, M, and Z are the total number of the total values of observations that has been given to you. Okay, so this is called as mean deviation. Now we will come to standard deviation. So I think standard deviation is a huge topic that is going to consume a lot of time. So I'm not going to start this topic now. Okay, we will cover this topic in the coming next class, right? So it is just a point of advice that because we are understanding measure of dispersion, then please go home, at least do reading once or twice of what is standard deviation. If you have book, please read it or refer from the book. If you do not have book, uh, then you can simply find online notes or otherwise I'll send you the slide also. You can read it from the slide also, right? So I'm taking the attendance. Just give me a moment. Nishanta, absent. Sachin is present.
Yes, ma'am.
Ovina, Ovina is present. Aditya is present. Nitish is present.
Yes, ma'am.
Rahul,
Present,
Rahul is
ma'am.
present. Sanjeev Kumar. Sanjeev is not here. Upendra. Upendra is present. Saurabh Kumar Jha.
Yes, ma'am.
Anil.
Yes, ma'am.
Rajkumar is present. Shilpi is present. Aditya Raj.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Anjali. Anjali is here. No, she is not here. Sahaj is not here. Chandrasekhar. Chandrasekhar is here. Gaurav and
Yes, ma'am. Present, ma'am. Gaurav Singh, present, ma'am.
Gaurav Singh present and Kapil. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you,
I
ma'am. Thank you
am
so much.
ending
Thank you, ma'am.